Now look, I know it's very easy for all of us to just suggest that Tesla should put the next Gigafactory near my hometown. There's lots of viewers we get from all over the world, and I know that's your immediate impulse is put one near me, put one next door. And I get that, it's fun, it's easy to recommend, but I'm trying to think more in a global sense when it comes to supply and demand. Where is the best place for the next Gigafactory location? We will more than likely get an announcement of some kind in 2021 because Tesla has put forward some very ambitious goals for the next decade. In fact, they want to be achieving 20 million vehicle deliveries by 2030. And if they're going to be achieving those numbers, that means they got to be putting up 2, 3 to 4 gigafactories every year moving forward. So I more than expect at least a couple announcements for new gigafactory locations. And there's some obvious ones people have been asking for a while. You know, India is a very populated country, a place that is in desperate need of a lot more electric vehicles and solar. But at the same time, I'm pretty confident in saying that the Model 3 and Model Y would not fit the market of India very well. Even if they were built locally and didn't have those huge import fees, that type of vehicle does not sell incredibly well there. So if they wanted to bring a gigafactory to India, for one, I'd be all for it. I'm for putting up as many gigafactories as possible. My guess is they would either have to redesign a vehicle and make it more India friendly, which is a bit more common to have three-wheelers there or motorcycles, or if you're gonna make a four-door sedan, at least make it way more affordable than even $35,000 US equivalent over there because the population is so different. Wouldn't shock me if the gigafactory that goes up in India is more about batteries and solar, and perhaps down the road when Tesla is able to mass produce a $25,000 car, then they'll start building that car locally in India to fit the demographic better. And you have similar situations where vehicles like the Model 3 and Y would probably not sell incredibly well in countries like Brazil, even though there's a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of Tesla fans that would love to see the vehicles brought there. And there's probably some of you even watching from Israel, where Tesla even got a business permit, which means that importing vehicles there could be happening any day now, and those vehicles could be coming from Fremont, Giga Shanghai. But because of the supplies and the demand they would likely face there, wouldn't make much sense for them to build their own factory. Same situation with Australia. It is a smaller auto demographic, and every car you build there is either got to be delivered there or shipped way far overseas. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to build a factory on the island of Australia. And that's why my answer for today's video is probably a bit of a boring one, but I think I have some logic to back it up. I actually think the next Gigafactory location should be a second location for the China market. So this may seem redundant or unnecessary, as Giga Shanghai's recently hit a 8,000 vehicle production rate per week, which is insane. And if the production ramp keeps up, it sounds like Giga Shanghai will be able to produce over 500,000 vehicles single-handedly in 2021. To give you guys perspective on how 1 million vehicles delivered in 2021 from Tesla is actually possible. But the truth is, I think China has an overwhelming demand problem. And as more and more news outlets have come forward and talked about this, it appears that because the Model Y actually hit the market at around 30% cheaper than a lot of people were expecting, they had over 100,000 orders for the Model Y in the first day it was announced, okay? That does not even count all of the future potential Tesla owners in China that, you know, obviously are going to be seeing these Model 3s, these superchargers, these Model Ys coming around, and they're going to start asking about them like, hey, why are so many people buying these things? Finding out the great features, whether it be autopilot, the great range, and the supercharging network, and then thinking, hey, I want to get one of those Teslas. They sound awesome. All of those potential customers have not even been recognized yet. We're just talking about the people who know about Tesla, and they're already ordering more vehicles than Giga Shanghai can build in a single year. Now, of course, Giga Shanghai is not complete, and there's going to be more sections to the factory built out upon, and they're already working on a factory in Shanghai that's just going to be designated for building supercharger stalls because it's such a populated country. They want to make sure there's plenty of supercharging stations to choose from. But think about it this way. In North America, Tesla is already working on its second Gigafactory location. That is, of course, not counting the Gigafactory in New York, which is mainly just for solar panels. But no, for vehicle production, they're already building Giga Texas, which is coming along very well. And that's to go alongside Fremont, which is where most Teslas are being built right now. So if they're willing to have two factories in the United States, and the United States is by far way less populated, and North America in general has way less people than China does, in my opinion, it makes sense to make sure you can actually keep up with the demand, because over there in China, you know you're not going to have any demand issues. Whereas I feel like in a few lower income countries or places that aren't as developed, where you don't have that many people dropping $40,000 to $50,000 on electric vehicles, that's where you might build a whole factory and be ready to mass produce them. But because they don't suit the demographic very well, you just run into a bunch of leftover vehicles and people waiting for cheaper cars or waiting for three-wheelers or electric vehicles that suit the needs of that demographic better. Whereas in China, we have proof. We have evidence that there's huge demographics of people wanting to make the switch to electric, and brand loyalty matters a lot over there. And I was already shocked to see over 100,000 orders in the first day of the Model Y being available with its updated pricing. And now knowing that in time that demand is just going to grow stronger as more Teslas are on the road, more people find out about them, and more people want to drive one and own one themselves. I don't know exactly where in China, probably space it a good amount of distance away from Giga Shanghai, just like, you know, Tesla decided to put Giga Texas in the central US so that it can distribute vehicles equally across the United States, because Texas is a bit more in the center. Equal distance to ship things to the East Coast and to the West Coast. So maybe a bit more northern on the Chinese border so that you can still be close to a lot of populated cities, but ease up some of the delivery constraints of Giga Shanghai having to ship vehicles really, really far away. And the other thing we're noticing is in countries like Australia and probably other demographics that are a bit far away from Giga Berlin, Tesla plans on exporting a lot of vehicles from Giga Shanghai as well, because the operating costs are so low and the profit margins in China are so thick. That's how they're able to add a bunch of things to the Chinese-made Model Y, like the bioweapon defense mode and the heated steering wheel. They're able to implement all those things there, for one, because Tesla built the factory from the ground up, so it's a lot more streamlined, but also because the quality control out of those vehicles in that factory are much better, so importing them into Australia, and I believe they even imported a few Teslas to Europe from Giga Shanghai because it's just that much more affordable to build them there. Might as well build out that factory lineup in China as well, because you have the largest car market on Earth. More SUVs and cars are being bought there than anywhere else on the planet. So if you're going to have two factories in the US, might as well start working on a second factory in China and space it out a little bit so that Giga Shanghai doesn't have to drive vehicles that far to other major cities. And your next up-and-coming factory is going to need plenty of room, of course, because Tesla is designing a $25,000 electric vehicle, and it's going to be designed by people they hire in China, and it will most likely fit the needs of that demographic best, and will likely carry on some maybe design traditions that the Chinese market is accustomed to. And if they plan on mass producing that 25K model, they're going to need some more space, and I don't even necessarily know if Giga Shanghai is going to have the room, especially because of how dedicated it is now to pumping out as many Model 3s and as many Model Ys as possible. Having a whole separate facility for the 25K Tesla sounds pretty reasonable to me, and I'm no expert, you know, I'm just reading Twitter, I'm just reading the news as best I can, but if there's other locations or other ideas you guys have that would make sense for the next big Gigafactory location, and try not to just make it about, well, I would like one where I am, and also keep in mind putting them on smaller populated islands is not a great idea. So there's probably a lot of you wanting a Gigafactory in the United Kingdom, but then they would have to export a lot of those vehicles on boats and across the ocean, and got to keep in those type of logistics when deciding when the next Gigafactory location is going to be. But what do you guys think? Does a second location in China make sense, or should we have a third location in the United States closer to the East Coast? Good news is, whatever your suggestions are, Tesla's probably eventually going to do it at some time in the next decade. My vote is China. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.